So here we are in Benfleet, and the reason I'm here is I wanted to take it back to where I was back in 1994. Hopefully you can hear me with all the traffic going past on the high road. So I used to live here. This window up here was my flat when I was 20 years old, and I'm originally from Essex, I'm originally from Rayleigh, but the reason this was my flat is this was my dad's office. And my dad and my family are estate agents, and I come from a family of estate agents. So I left home when I was 16, but at 20 years old I moved back, left that guy, moved back to Rayleigh, and then my dad offered me to live in the flat above his office. So this was where I was when I first got into the raving scene. Before this I was a full Essex girl, white stilettos, tots, disco dancer. and I loved it, I absolutely loved it. I loved the discos, and I'd been going disco dancing all of that time. But it was here when I very first started raving, and it was with my cousin Lisa, and my cousin Lisa had already started going out at Joe Friday's on the seafront in Southend, and I hooked up with Lisa when we got back here, and we started going to Ad-lib. And one of the reasons I wanted to come here is once we started going Ad-lib, which is where I did my first pill, it's where ecstasy found me, or I found ecstasy, one or the other, and we started going to Ad-lib, and Ad-lib was amazing back in those days, and it was perfect virtue. All the clubs in Southend always finished at 2 o'clock in the morning, so it was always about the back to minds, and I have many back to minds at this flat, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to bring everybody here, because even though I'm Sacha now, back then I wasn't Sacha, I was Ellen, which is my real name. So anybody that remembers me from these times, and lots of people came to this flat that I probably don't know, or they might not even know whose flat it was. But lots of people came to that flat because I was Ellen then. I didn't become Sacha till some Essex boys. I didn't become Sacha till a few years later when I became page 3 model. So my original birth name is Ellen, and so I was Ellen. And so anybody that remembers raving at this flat in 1994 to 1995, that was my flat, and we'll come back round this way. So this was my flat. Lots of people came into this car park late at night, and we used to have some fun up there. Obviously my dad wasn't too happy about that, but you know, I was 20 years old. What do you expect from your 20-year-old daughter who's just started going out? So yeah, anybody that came to that flat, we had some fun, didn't we? So here we are at number 1 Rochester Way, and this is the house that I bought in 1995. So after a year at the flat above my dad's office, he told me to get out. So I did, and I was working in the city at the time as a reinsurance broker, and so I was doing all right for myself, and so I made the plunge, and that thing that they tell us all to do, and it's time to get a mortgage, Ellen. So I bought this house in 1995 for £33,500. I bought this house, and this is the honest reason. This is Craylan's housing estate, which is not the most salubrious area, we have to say, as in there's a lot of deprivation and everything here, and it was known as the second worst housing estate in Basildon. But really and truly, it was because of this. At the other end of this housing estate was 2 friends that we used to rave with, called Sheila and Steve. We used to have parties up the other end of this road, And so many a time after Ad-Lib in Southend or after Raquels, we'd go to their party. And so I always used to have loads of fun here. And then I saw this house up the other end of the road. I was like, yeah, I can live near my mates, it'll be loads of fun. So not really realising how bad it might be for a single girl of 21 years old, coming up 21 years old, to be living in not the safest area. I didn't really think about it. I was like, you know, it's near the main road, it's near the A13, I can get to work, it's near the station, so that's all good. But we had some fun, right? We had some proper fun. So my best mate moved in with me and another girlfriend, and those two friends lived with me at this house, and we had parties galore. And one of the things about this whole story I want to talk about is the fact of what a great, amazing time it was for us. And there's a lot of a narrative and all of this stuff that has gone around this whole story about Basildon and everything that went on. But what I really, and the reason I've come back and wanted to take it back is because this time was an amazing time in the UK. Right? We were on the back of you know, the ecstasy and the rave culture explosion, but it was also Britpop, it was like boy bands and all of this kind of thing. And it was a great time to be 21 years old. It was brilliant. I was having the actual time of my entire life. 1995 was, till to date, the best year of parties of my life. Obviously there is the yin and the yang at this time, and so at this point I'm working as a reinsurance broker in Lloyd's of London in the city, doing the whole commuter thing, going backwards and forwards. But I need extra money, we all do, to go out and buy clothes and do all these things, and I had a mortgage and all of these things to deal with. My best mate who was living with me was working part-time as barmaid at Raquels on a Friday night. And the reason for that, and I will go into this more later, we were following the music scene, following the DJ scene, and Raquels was the sister night on a Friday night. So even though Raquels was notoriously rough, and I mean notoriously rough, Friday night was different, and Friday night was the rave night. And obviously we know what went on with the raves, and actually instead of everybody drinking, everybody was on ecstasy. And there was no trouble, mate. There really was.
Everyone loved each other.
Everybody was in love. There was hugs on the dance floor, you name it. On a Thursday night, on a Saturday night in Basildon, fights, you name it, tipping out time, everybody wants to beat each other up, all of that going on. But it was different. And that's what I loved about the rave scene, and still to this day love about that scene, is in the fact of, yes, I'm not here advocating everybody to go out and do loads of drugs. That's not what I'm advocating. But we are 30 years later here right now, and that whole demonising of our rave scene that was done with drugs took all of the magic and took all of the best things. And I don't mean that ecstasy was just the best thing about it. It manipulated it, it demonised it, and the whole scenario is the fact, as a single girl, as a female girl, I could walk into a rave and I could walk into somewhere like that and feel completely comfortable. If I walked into the meat market where everybody was pissed, something that you're not going to get out of, and with your life and your dignity intact. We were having a ball, and before all this kicked off and before all of this happened and before all of this, I'm not saying there wasn't bad shit going on. There's always bad shit going on. But us youngsters at the time, us 20-year-olds and all of that, were having a lot of fun. Loads of people came to this house, and so anybody that remembers me from there, hi. Hopefully you remember what a good time we were having before all of this kicked off, before it all went on top. Now something happened at this house that I'm not going to go into here and now, but something happened at this house exactly 1 week before Leah Betts' birthday party. I'm not going to go into it now because it's another part of this story, and I'm still on the investigation part of this. But what I will say is nothing happens by coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences. And when something happens and people start losing their lives and really bad things start to occur, when you're in the middle of it and you're in that goldfish bowl, it's like bam, 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 what's going on? But when you look back and you take it back and go, that was going on and that was going on, and when you look at it with older eyes and wiser eyes, things start to make much more sense. And that's what's happened for me. And everything comes down, all of this crime shit and all this going on, it all comes down to money. Who shot those boys? Because at the end of the day, whoever did do it was doing it for somebody else. Obviously there's lots of money involved, obviously there's drugs involved, obviously there's sex involved, obviously there's people making money, all kinds of areas. How women have been exploited and girls have been exploited so badly on that basis. Why I'm doing this and why I want to be able to put out a female side, can I say? So here we are in Big Bad Baz, and this is the notorious at Raquels. So this is where it all happened. This is the door, and the other door around the corner was used. We'll go around there in a minute, but it's less windy here. This is the door that I walked in when I did Sky documentary into the derelict Raquels. Now, when I did that, I spent a whole day recording in here, filming. It was freezing cold, there was glass all over the floor, there was rats, all kinds of things living in there, all kinds of ghosts. All kinds of rats were in there in them days, and all kinds of rats are still in there in these days. So yeah, when I came here with Sky documentary team, we spent all day recording in here, and they used none of it. Absolutely none of it. For whatever reason, I don't know. I know they've waited for ages to be able to actually film inside here and got permission from the council. I know there was a few problems with lighting and things like that all that day, but yeah, none of that got used. So anyway, this was where I was barmaid. I was barmaid in 1995 before it all kicked off. I was on the top bar, and if I'm right in saying, if I'm wrong, somebody out there correct me, I think it was called Loveland on a Friday night. This is kind of around the corner of the club. Down there, anybody was being naughty, I believe the doorman used to take them round there. There's always a lot of a problem with the girls got let in but the guys didn't. I wonder why that was. Something to do with their trainers, obviously. So yeah, here we are, and it really does take you back, coming back here. And what I would like to say is, so the night that, after everything that had happened with Leah Betts, and before we even knew she was dead, on the last night, which I believe is the 17th, 16th of November, me and my best mate turned up for work, as always, got dropped off in the car park, and as we pulled into here, if you can imagine, the whole of the world's press was here. BBC, ITV, Sky, German channels, you name it, all of their vans were here, and the whole of the world press is here. So we've pulled in here and gone, oh my God. Like, we were not expecting that. Like, we had no idea that, like, we thought it was going to be a bit on top when we came, because it had obviously already gone out in the press. We weren't expecting that. Come in, and they were here handing out leaflets of Leah Betts in a coma. of Leah Betts in a coma at the door.
Whoa!
And obviously,
Holy smoke!
obviously, no clubber was coming into the club that night. This was the last Friday night of Raquels. No clubber was coming in that night. They were handing out leaflets. The whole of the world press was here. We would just literally run in, went in the back door, as we normally would. We were taken up to the office and told that there was going to be some undercover police in the club that night. And that was the only people that were in the club that night. Nobody. This went from the rammed biggest Friday night in the UK, in the local area, to nobody came, and that was the end.